Welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. Today I want to do a 9.8 comic book market update video. I got 20 completed listings in a 9.8 to go through. So first one is an Amazing Spider-Man number 300 in a 9.8. I saw one of these sell on at Comic Link recently, just ended in the past like 2 or 3 days or so. Ended up selling for $5,000 in a 9.8. So this one might be on the cool down just a little bit, whereas we had documented a group of these that had went, it was about 3 weeks ago or so on Comic Link as well. They had sold from $5,200 up to $5,600. And to be honest, the one that had sold here at $5,000 had really great colors and centering, and it was in a new case with the new kind of Venom decal. It was looking more like the one that had went for $5,600 in that batch of auctions that had kind of the nicest colors out of the bunch on that one. So I think $5,000 is basically a price target to aim for on an Amazing Spider-Man 300 if you're in the market for this one. Sounds expensive, but origin and first appearance of Venom, it's one of the toughest 1980s 9.8s to get. It's got like a 5.6% 9.8 ratio. So of all graded copies, only 5.6% of them are 9.8s, which is really tough. That's why it's $5,000, but maybe a little bit on the cool down. And I actually think if you're in the market for an Amazing Spider-Man 300, right around $5,000 is a pretty great deal. This one, during that kind of Let There Be Carnage movie hype and stuff like that, they were right around $7,000 for a minute there, and I think a few had went over, so a little bit on the cool down for an Amazing Spider-Man 300, but absolutely a no-brainer if you're really serious about investing in 9.8 comics. Next one, really cool one, an Astonishing Tales number 25. This one's from 1974. In a 9.8, sold for $4,223 on this group of Comic Link auctions. It's first appearance of Deathlock on this one and the first George Perez artwork. So this is just super collectible and not too familiar with price history on this one, to be honest. This one's a really old one in a 9.8, but if you're in the market for an Astonishing Tales 25, this one wasn't an old case, ended up selling for $4,223. Next one was Marvel Superhero Secret Wars number 8, Origin of the Symbiote costume. Ended up selling for $869 in a 9.8. I think that's a pretty solid price. You might be able to just get this one a little under $800 if you know, you're really patient. But this one that really heated up with that original art of the Secret Wars number 8. I think it was the cover, but it ended up going for like a ridiculous amount of money, over $1 million, I believe it was. And ever since then, the Secret Wars number 8 has been a pretty, getting pretty solid prices, and I would say $869 is pretty solid. Maybe you aim a little under $800 on that one. Next one is Nova number 1 in a 9.8. So there's been some whispers just in the last few days that, yes, like Nova is coming back to the MCU. And to be honest, usually during these times, like it's probably not the time to buy the book right after some of the announcements. I know that happened with Deadpool and New Mutants 98 during that time. This was like a year ago. It was about $1,000 more than it is now. It ended up kind of cooling down. So Nova number 1s, though, in the last few days, one sold for $2,700 and another for $2,999.99. So call it $3,000. This is one they were right around $2,000 sort of, you know, in the last kind of 3 or so months. So instantly kind of adding a couple more $100 certainly there on a Nova number 1. I don't think the timing's the best for this one right after some of these announcements. Even if you just wait a few months on this one, I think you'll get a better deal on a Nova number 1 in a 9.8. But yeah, I mean, if they cool down a little bit, it might be one to consider. You know, I think a Nova movies could be really cool, I think. Okay, next one's an Amazing Spider-Man 252 in a direct edition 9.8. Saw one sell on eBay, this one, for $2,200. That's a pretty stiff price. Like they've been going right around $2,000. I've saw a few sales go for in a direct edition. And if you look back a little bit more, they're you know, a little longer time, a few months ago or so, they were kind of selling in that sort of $1,600, $1,700 range. So I think $2,200, a little bit of an overpay. I think you want to aim closer to $2,000 on an Amazing Spider-Man 252 in the direct edition. Next one's a great one. It's Uncanny X-Men 239, the first cool Mr. Sinister cover on this one, selling for $480 in a 9.8 in the direct edition, this one. So that's a little bit near the higher end of the fair value for this one. I remember an auction we had documented that it went for like $375. But occasionally these do go over $400. I had mentioned like this one's pretty much neck and neck with the first appearance of Mr. Sinister in a 9.8. With that one not Uncanny X-Men 221 not having like the best cover. So this is like the coolest Mr. Sinister cover. And it's about the same price as the first appearance now. So $480 I think is a little bit of an overpay. AIM a little closer to $400. I've saw those go under $400 before. SpiderMan 2099 #1. This one had sold for $199 in a 9.8. This is one that had just kind of cooled down recently in the short term, whereas those Across the Spider-Verse movies were announced. It was like a month or so ago, and I think this one was kind of going around $300. I don't think you'd want to get up there that much on a 2099 #1, but around $200, making a little more sense. Yeah, I think maybe even wait for a bit of a lull here. You can maybe get it for kind of $150 to $175 on a Spider-Man 2099 #1, direct edition 9.8. I saw Venom #3 in the first print, though, sell in a 9.8 for $329.99. Yeah, this one's kind of been in that, right around that sort of $300 range for quite a while. Venom #3 first print. So, yeah, absolutely one to think about if you're a big Null fan. You could probably still maybe get that one under $300 if you want to get a pretty solid deal on a Venom 3 in the first print, 9.8. Next one's a pretty great value, I think. It's a Battlestar Galactica #1. This one came out in 1979, so a pretty old book in a 9.8. And this one had sold for $265. So kind of it's an adaptation of like the Battlestar Galactica TV show that had come out, this book. First appearance in comics, I'm pretty sure. So I think this one's kind of one to think about. That's a pretty great value, and I could absolutely see like a Battlestar Galactica reboot show coming out at some point in the next like 5 or 10 years or whatever it might be. So this one might just be a great one to buy. It's a pretty cold one right now, and then any kind of announcement I think would be a positive for Battlestar Galactica #1 in a 9.8 for $265. That one's going for. I saw an Amazing Spider-Man #4 in a 9.8. Cindy Moon becomes Silk in this one. Saw it sell for $450 in an auction. I think you could kind of aim for a little closer to $400 on this one. This one's not a tough 9.8. I've sort of recommended maybe go after the variant in this one because, the variant's about $900, I would say. But given that in the first print, not that tough of a 9.8, the variant kind of makes sense for this one. But $450, I would say, is a pretty stiff price. Although there is some potential, I would say, with Silk. This is one of those books where, yeah, it's not the toughest 9.8, but I have a feeling like if a Silk show came out and it was awesome, this one would absolutely explode in value. So I'd probably try to get closer to $400 on the first print, but one selling for $450 in an auction too, that one was. Next one's a really cool one. I've actually was really close to buying this one. It was about 6 months or so ago, but it's a Wolverine version 3 number 66 in the variant edition though. This is the first Old Man Logan storyline. In the variant, which I think is a really cool kind of eye appeal on the variant, sold in an auction for $305. And I'm pretty sure the one I was looking at was like 450 Canadian dollars. It was in Canada, which is kind of about, $325 to $350 US dollars, I would say. So $305 I think is a really good price for this variant version, first appearance of Old Man Logan. Yeah, this is kind of a Wolverine key. That's a bit under the radar, but especially in this variant version, around $305. I think the first print's about $150 or so. If you're liking the idea of Wolverine 66, first Old Man Logan storylines. Next one's a really interesting one. That's a pretty stiff price, I feel, for this one because I was outbid on this book about a year ago. I tried to buy this one. Superman 75 in a newsstand edition, 9.8. I was trying to get this one. It was like $120 or so, and I think the auction ended up going for kind of $140. This was about a year ago on one I had missed out on, but I think this is a great one to consider in the newsstand edition. And it sold for $350. That is like, I've never saw, this high price for a Superman 75 newsstand version, albeit in the, the more rare newsstand. I do like the newsstand version of this book where Superman 75 was just super heavily printed. That was probably like the moment in time where comic books were their most popular during the death of Superman on this one. So in the newsstand version, it makes so much sense. $350, I would kind of aim for kind of closer to $250. I feel like that's either a bit of an overpay or this one's like really becoming more collected in the more rare newsstand version. So maybe that one's just, rising in price, which is pretty great. Next one's a Swamp Thing 49 in a 9.8. This has got a bit of like a prototype for the Justice League Dark. I actually like issue 50 better because you got John Constantine in that one kind of working with, the whole kind of Swamp Thing crew. Whereas in this one, you don't really get John Constantine working with them, so I don't think it's like first appearance of Justice League Dark. I like issue 50 as the first appearance of Justice League Dark. But this 49 one catching a bid, $299. This is another one, like selling for $300 now. Remember trying to buy this one right around the sort of 125 to 150 level. So I don't know if this one's heating up a little bit more, or that was just an overpay, or maybe the market's getting a little hotter here. I'm not too sure. There seems to be kind of a few secondary key issues that are getting like a pretty good bid on my list here. So I don't know, maybe the market is heating up just a little bit. We'll have to wait and see and keep an eye on things. But next one, Walking Dead number 100 with a really cool Todd McFarlane cover. This is a great under $100 one. I saw this one sell for $70 in a Walking Dead number 100. So if you're a Walking Dead fan and a McFarlane fan, I think for $70, that's just a screaming deal on a Walking Dead number 100. I saw Earth 2 number 19 in a 9.8 sell. Yeah, maybe someone kind of watching my videos, I've really kind of recommended this one recently. It's a first appearance of Val-Zod Superman. Lots of potential on this one, I think. Saw it sell for $502 US. It was an in Canada sale. It was like 600 and some odd Canadian dollars. So did the exchange, and it's just over $500 US dollars. On Earth 219, first appearance of Val-Zod, I think, yeah, right around $500 in a 9.8. That's a great one to consider. I think that's a pretty solid price. Next one's a Gunslinger Spawn number 1 in the Capullo variant. I do like the Capullo cover for this one. I like the McFarlane cover as well, but I mentioned on a recent video that the Capullo cover for Gunslinger Spawn 1 is really cool. This is a price target to aim for, $77.57. $77.57 for this one. Yeah, maybe the Gunslinger Spawn, that's the first solo Gunslinger Spawn comic book, so I feel like these ones could end up being collected over time. The Capullo variant's probably the best eye appeal one, so $77.57 in a 9.8 is a price target to aim for on the Gunslinger Spawn 1 Capullo variant. Here's a cool one too, an Amazing Spider-Man 259. This is Origin of Mary Jane, and it's got like a Tale of Suspense 39 cover homage as well. A cool one to consider. This one was really nicely centered as well. It ended up selling for $210. I think this one, you know, if an auction pops up, maybe the book's not, you know, the best centered or whatever it might be, will probably go a little bit under 200. But with the great colors and the nice centering, I think 210 is a pretty fantastic buy on an Amazing Spider-Man 259. Origin of MJ with a really cool cover on that one. So I saw a couple of Voltron number 1s sell in a 9.8. This is one I recently kind of recommended as just Voltron has a great, a solid cult of fans, and it was just kind of a cold one that you could buy at a really fair price. Seen quite a few sell. I don't know if there might be some like Voltron rumors or something like that, but there seemed to be quite a few sales. Looking on eBay this morning. One had sold for $399. One had sold $460, and another one for $599.99. So $600. You know, when we documented it on the video about a month ago, they were about $400. So someone paying $600 for one recently. I don't know, maybe there is some rumors there, but I would definitely try to aim closer to $400 on a Voltron number 1. A pretty great collector item though in the 9.8. There's not too many of them. It's not like a Marvel book, so it's not super heavily printed. So yeah, I think right around $400 is a great value on a Voltron number 1 in a 9.8. I saw a War of the Bounty Hunters Jabba number 1 in the Coelho variant. This is like the 1 for 25, really tough, rare variant of this Jabba number 1. It's a first appearance of Deva Longpop, who's kind of a cool new bounty hunter. And saw this one sell for $199.95. And then someone on the team had mentioned one had went for like $250 in an auction. So I think, yeah, you'd want to aim closer to this $200 price, we'll call it, on the Coelho variant of War of the Bounty Hunters, Jabba number 1 in a 9.8. Cool cover on that one. Alrighty, and the last one on the list here is an Ultimate Fallout 4 in the second printing 9.8. Saw one sell in an auction for $597.71. So in the second printing, I do like the eye appeal on the second printing where you can kind of see Miles's face. And I think, you know, this one had kind of been going in the sort of, like right around $600, but I think they were kind of $600 to $700. So actually just a little under $600, I think, is a price to aim for if you're in the market for an Ultimate Fallout 4. And this second print 9.8, pretty great alternative to, you know, the first prints are like $3,000 in a 9.8 now. The second print looks really cool, and it's just under $600 in a 9.8, one selling in an auction. All right, team, full list of prices. I'll have them in the description below with the prices. They're all US dollars, all the prices we talked about as well. But you know what? I think the 9.8 market is absolutely hanging in there. Even on some of these secondary key issues, like I'm just really surprised by some of the prices on them. Like I think, you know, especially like the Superman 75, the Swamp Thing 49, even the Amazing Spider-Man #4, like, you know, some of these books where I feel like I was more used to them going about $100 cheaper, they seem to be getting a bit of a bid. But then there's like Amazing Spider-Man 300, which, you know, kind of is a bit of a cool down price on that Comic Link auction. So a bit of a mixed bag, but, you know, certainly still, you know, really solid prices pretty much going for a lot of these 9.8 comic books. Absolutely. All right, team. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. If you're liking my content, please subscribe and hit that bell, and I'll keep you updated on future videos.